Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by and please consider subscribing. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at this Ruched Bubu. The ruching is in the middle and I'll be using this direct fabric. I've already folded it into two and note the margin that I created there. I used about 1.5 inches. That's what I will use to form the channel. And at the top edge of the fabric, I drew a line at that point, and that will be my shoulder line. So now I will create my neckline of 3 inches width, and because I'm cutting the front panel first, okay, so I'll go down with the depth of 7 inches. So the neck depth is 7 inches and the neck width is 3 inches. I'll connect the neck width, which is 3 inches, to that neck depth like so, and then I'll extend it horizontally into that margin. So for my shoulder, I'll measure what I have as half of my shoulder measurement plus what I am using as my sleeve length. So preferably you will measure from your mid shoulder to your desired sleeve length, and when you've gotten that, you mark that and go down with 2 inches. Sorry, my camera couldn't capture this, but I will show you later what it looks like. So from that 2 inches, you slope it to meet your neck width, and from the shoulder slope there, I went down with 10 inches. That will be for my slip opening. For my vertical dimensions, I measured from the shoulder line to the under bust, and then I'll measure the gown length. I'm using 65 inches for the gown length because this is a very tall person. So after measuring that 60 inches, I'm adding 5 inches to it. At that point, I will draw an horizontal line, and then I will mark a quarter of the hip measurement. The hip measurement I'm using here is 50 inches. So a quarter of that is 12.5 inches, and I will mark that and add 5 inches to that quarter of the hip circumference measurement. When I've added that, I will connect that point to meet the sleeve opening. At the sleeve opening, I'll go inwards with 3 inches. At that point of 3 inches, that's what I'll be sloping to meet what I have on the gown length. So using a ruler, I'll connect that point to the gown length now. After connecting that, I'll go back to that sleeve opening, and then I'll give it a smooth curve because I don't want that part to be that sharp. So I'll just curve it, just to blend it, the sleeve opening, to blend it into the gown. And then I'll cut this out, and that will be for the front panel. After cutting it out, I'll place it on another folded fabric. This time, the folded fabric, the back will be folded. There will be no opening. So I'll push in the allowance that I added to the front panel, and then I'll place it on another folded fabric, and then I'll cut exactly what I have on the front panel, only that it will be 1 inch higher at the shoulder line. Apart from that, every other thing, the sleeve opening, the gown length, and every other thing is the same thing. So this is what it is, and then I've cut it out already. So the next thing I will do is to cut out the neckline for the back panel. The neck width will have to be exactly what you have on the front panel. So I'm measuring 3 inches there, and then I'll go down with 2 inches as the neck depth for the back panel. So I'll connect the neck width to meet that 2 inches, okay, and that'll be for the neckline of the back panel. And then I'll equally cut out what I already have on the front panel. I'll cut out the neckline and we'll start sewing. So sewing it, I'll first of all start with the middle front, okay. That allowance that I added, I'll sew it out, iron it, and then we'll make the channels for the ruching. So I've joined it and ironed, and this is what it looks like. And the next thing, I'll fold in about a 1/4 inch on both sides of the allowance that you have there. I'll do I'll do that to the length of the gown. Okay, so after sewing that, this is what it looks like. And before you join this middle, you must have torn your neckline with the bias. So at the hem there, I noticed that if I'm hemming it, everything will be closed and there'll be no hole for it. So I have to lose the middle front, lose the stitch that I have on the middle front, just some few inches. Okay, so to give me space to do to correct that. So now I will double fold the hem. I'll double fold the hem, sew it down on both sides. So I'll double fold the left side, sew it down, and double fold the right side, sew it down to some point. I'm not completing the hemming at this point, just so it will give me room to finish the channels. So when I'm done with that, I will join back what I have. Look at it. I'll join it back, sew it to meet the other stitch that I already have, because I didn't lose out everything. So I'll sew it back to the stitch that I already have, and then iron it open, and then complete the channel which I need for the ropes for the ruching. So like I did from the neckline, I'll fold in 1/4 inch on both sides and sew it down. And after sewing it, we can see that we have the hole now that will pass our ropes. So now, to get the ropes, okay, the length of the rope, I'll measure from the neck depth, or what I have on the front panel. I'll measure it to the gown length, and whatever I have, I will add about 5 inches or 6 to that length. Okay, so now the length I have here is 56 inches, so I'll add about 5 inches. That will make it 61 inches, and the width of it is 1.5 inches, and the length I made it about 62 inches. Okay, I made about 63 inches just to be on the safe side, so the rope will not disappear into the channel when you're passing it. You still have a little excess outside. It will make it easier for us that way. I'll cut it out at that length which I already marked, and I'll make 2 pieces. So now to make the ropes, you fold the edge 1/2 inch inwards, okay, and when you get the midpoint, you fold in a 1/4 inch on both sides, just the way I'm doing it. You sew it down after folding the 1/4 inch inwards. Okay, so alternatively, you can just sew a 1/4 inch and then turn it inside out. So now, after I've sewn the ropes, I made 2 of it, and I use this safety pin. I'll pin one part of it, and then I'll push it through the channel that we created. From the hem, I'll push it all the way to the neckline. So when I get it to the neckline, I'll be careful so it won't go in, and also it shouldn't stick out either. So I will just push it a little in so it won't show, pin it down. I will do it to the other channel as well. Push the second rope through the second channel to the neckline. When I've secured it with a pin, I'll take it to the machine and sew it down. That way I'll secure the ropes so that it will not go inside, it will just stay at that point. So after I have sewn it, the next thing, I'll bring in the back panel which I have turned the neckline with a bias. So I'll join the shoulder right side of the fabric facing the right side of the fabric, okay? So I'll join it using 1/2 inch on both sides. I will iron and interlock, and the next thing I will need to create the channel for the elastic that we'll have on the sleeve. So now for the elastic channel, I want to use 1.5 inches because I'm using an inch elastic. So I want to use 1.5 inches because I don't want the room to be too much. So when I've measured out that 1.5 inch, I'll fold a 1/4 inch inwards just to give it a neat edge and then sew it down. After sewing it down, this is what we have as a channel for the elastic. So I'll bring in the elastic at this point. I'll measure about 9 inches. Now, I don't want it too tight. I don't want it too loose. It depends on what you want, whatever you're comfortable with. So for me, I use 9 inches for this client. I'll make 2 pieces of this length of elastic. After cutting it, I'll use that safety pin again and I'll push it through the channel. So you have to be careful that the elastic will not disappear, just like you were careful when you were doing the ropes. So I think this one is even more tricky because the elastic is shorter than the channels that we have. So now you'll be careful on this other end. Make sure it doesn't stick out too much. You pin it down and later we'll secure it with, we'll stitch it down with the machine. So when you've secured it down, you push this other end to come out this way. Okay, just look at what I'm doing and then you pin it. I'll do the same thing to the other sleeves. I'll take it to the machine and sew each side down. When I've sewn it down, I know that it's secured, and then we'll move over to the next thing. Now, to snatch the waist, okay, it's a bubu, yeah, but we want it to look fitted at the waistline there. That was why I measured that on the bust. Okay, so now I want to make the belt for that. So I'll measure out what I have here, and I have about 26.5 inches. That's the length for it, and I used about 5 inches as the width. So I'll fold it into 2 and use 1/2 inch to stitch it. I'll close one part and turn it inside out and interlock the other part that is open. Okay, and that's the belt. And then to place it on the front panel, that's why I didn't close the side at this point. So I'll measure from the shoulder line. Remember, I said the under bust is 15.5 inches. So I like to add 1/2 inch to just make it 16 inches. Okay, at that point I will draw a line and then I'll measure from the center front. I'll measure 1/4 of the waist measurement that I have, measurement that I'm working with. So the measurement, if I'm using 40 inches circumference, waist circumference, so 1/4 of that is 10 inches, and that's what I marked. At that point that I marked, okay, I'll bring in the belt that I've already prepared, pin it down on both sides. I made 2 of these ropes, so I'll take it to the machine, sew it down, and we have our belt. This belt, you will tie it inwards. It's not going to show outwards. You tie it inwards when you're wearing your bubu. When I'm done with that, I will use 1/2 inch to stitch the side. So I'll join both sides. And then at the hem there, I'll complete the hem that I had already started when I was making the channels for the ropes. And that's it for the bubu. So now if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, like and share, comment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.